This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance! Play down the left and Moy stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. 1-2 wicket from the... Here's Moy, right-footed! 1-0 Huddersfield Town! Lindelof misses his header. De Quattro's in. Round De Gea! 2-0 Huddersfield Town! 2-0 Huddersfield Town! Here's Zanka to turn it into the pass. Yes! And Tommins scored! Tommins has scored one of the most important goals of Huddersfield Town's history. De Quattro's forward. De Quattro's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Quattro scores! Laurent De Quattro scores!
Welcome to Andy Takes That Chance, the warm-up. Another midweek match, and for this one we welcome our deposed player foe of 2017, Sheffield Wednesday. Paying a financial penalty and having to attend a driver's awareness course for speeding down to Wembley, true story. I'm Matt Shaw. Yet to pay his fixed penalty for exposure and lewd behaviour on a podcast, we have Brady Frost. And finally a man who entered the field of play at the end of a penalty shootout and miraculously got away without being banned by stadium safety officer John Robinson. It's Chris Markham. Hello, chaps.
Hello. Hello, mate. How are we doing?
Very good. Tuesday night, and we host a Pulis Ball of Sheffield Wednesday. Two sides quite close in geography, but never really much of a rivalry to speak of, despite becoming quite familiar with each other since the turn of the millennium. The clubs have met 60 times, with Huddersfield on top in the head-to-heads with 24 wins, and they're in 15 draws and 21 Sheffield Wednesday wins. One famous Huddersfield victory is the 1930 FA Cup semi-final, where Huddersfield beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-1 at Old Trafford before losing to Herbert Chapman's Arsenal in the final. But this week's memorable match has to be the feisty encounter of the 3rd of January 2011, an early kick-off game on Sky, settled by Anthony Pilkington's 25-yard thunder rocket and goal of the season contender. A man who will have had a bird's eye, well, not quite a bird's eye view, but a decent view of that will be Mr. Markham. Tell us what you remember from that game.
Oh, it was, like you say, it was one of the goals of the season, and I remember I had a great view behind it, and it was one of them. Pilts, he was both-footed. One story in training was when Scotty Arfield joined, it took him like 3 or 4 training sessions, 3 or 4 weeks into pre-season. He had to ask him, what footed are you? Because he didn't know. So in training, making different angles and stuff. But that just showed what Pilts could do. It went either way, and it was one of them where when he hit it, obviously, absolutely, you just knew it was in from that moment. And it was those games against Wednesday at that time were always a bit nip and tuck, weren't they? And it was going to take something like that, and it was absolute wonder strike.
Fantastic day. Brady, you must have seen that goal 100 times like me as well. What are your overriding thoughts of the quality of that, especially with it being in League One at the time? It could grace any level.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Pilkington at that time, just loved him, didn't you? One of my favourite players, definitely, in the round.
Well, Brady, as soon as I was speaking to you, give us the lay of the sty. Bring us up to date and tell us how Sheffield Wednesday have been doing more recently.
Right, well, they're yet to win under Tony Pulis since he replaced Gary Monk in mid-November. Really sad for Gary Monk, obviously. Big fan for all Town fans.
Distraught.
Joking, of course. They've only conceded 2 goals in one match, though, since they took over, and that was the 2-1 defeat to Norwich, who were the league leaders at the weekend. They've only scored 3 goals since Pulis took charge, and they remain bottom of the table on 9 points. Obviously, they had that points deduction of 12, but it's been reduced to 6. They've only won once on the road this season, and that was 1-0 at Birmingham, and that was when Gary Monk was in charge. So, yeah, so it sounds quite good on paper, but as you kind of touched on, we don't really have a great record against Wednesday. Only won 1 in our last 5 against them, and no surprises for guessing which game that was. So, yeah, it could be a tough game. again, we'll kind of touch on it a bit more, but we kind of know what you're getting from Pulis's team, and if they're, as soon as they're playing away from home, it's going to be maybe not the most entertaining of matches this season.
So let's have a look at the strengths and weaknesses of Sheffield Wednesday in general. Just a couple of things I've gleaned from that is they're quite a direct and aggressive, low block style side. 3 central midfielders, quite flat as well. That will disrupt the flow of the game. Sheffield Wednesday love a good shithousing. You know, they've got a past for it with Gary Megson, etc. That could very well upset Town, who like to have things their own way. Town not great from set pieces and balls into the box, and Sheffield Wednesday, despite not getting a lot of goals this season, have scored 75% of their away goals from set pieces or penalties. Chris, what have you, one you've looked into Sheffield Wednesday, what stood out for you in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is with this, it's such a difficult one, just to give you an idea of obviously what the Championship's like. 4 matches that Pulis has been in. He has steadied the ship, obviously, as Brady mentioned, in terms of 3 draws and obviously a late loss when they took the lead at Norwich the other day. And, they'll be buoyed by that performance despite the deflated nature of it. But it's so difficult. I've just gone and looked briefly at the 4 games he's been in charge. He's used about 4 different shapes. He's used players in different positions. We had Iorfa playing centre mid at the weekend. You've got Patterson, who can play anywhere from right back to centre forward. Obviously, different places for Adam Reach to play. So it'd be one of them that when they get the team sheet before the game, it'll even then be a difficult one to predict what's going to happen. Which really, leads to be more of maybe it's one of those games where you maybe focus on yourselves a bit more. I know Carlos, I just read something in the press when he mentions how much of a different challenge it will be to the QPR game. And that really is one of the challenges of the Championship, and one of the things that I enjoyed most, why I think it's probably one of the best leagues to work in. You've got to turn around and change so quickly. And I think that's a really interesting one. I think, as you've said, so difficult to predict what they are going to be, but what we do know is, like you say, Matt, from Pulis, they're going to be big, they're going to be direct, they're going to be aggressive, they're going to like set plays, they're going to be well disciplined. They're the things that you can take off Tony Pulis. And yeah, I just think it's such a difficult one to try and predict what they're going to do specifically, and their strengths and weaknesses are going to be. And yeah, I think it's one of those where maybe stats don't tell the full story. I know in one of the games as well, the Reading game, they had a man sent off, which obviously skews the whole stats and the whole game anyway. So probably not one for stats. It's probably more one for maybe focusing on us and as you've said, focusing on maybe more of a Pulis ideology rather than where players are going to play and what formation they're going to line up in.
Brady, what have you taken from Sheffield Wednesday? And maybe you can lead us into the player focus and a player that you may have picked out from Sheffield Wednesday to look at.
Yeah, touching on what kind of Chris said, my player focus, which taps into what we're talking about, is Adam Reach. I think he's becoming a bit of an important player under Pulis already in a short space of time. So against Norwich at the weekend, they played 5 at the back, and Reach was the left wing back. But he's also played as a left midfielder and a left winger. Particularly in the Norwich game, the cross from deep he put on for Windass was absolutely superb. Couldn't have done it any better. And I think those good deliveries from deep are something we're going to need to be aware of when we talk about their strengths. And Pippa needs to have a good game defensively. For me, we know he likes to bomb forward and obviously can help with us from an attacking sense. But that'd be a cause of concern, I think. Again, talked about set pieces. Then he scored against Norwich from a corner at the weekend. It was a goal line clearance. So do need to watch out for that. And as I'm sure we'll come on to, we've got a bit of a defensive small mini crisis, if you want to call it, with Stearman and Schindler out. So be a big test in that sense for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of player focus, player that I've picked out is Barry Bannon. We know all about Barry Bannon from years gone by. He's been at Sheffield Wednesday a little while now. He still brings a lot of craft in the middle of the park, and I think he's a very good player at this level. Sheffield Wednesday are notorious for scoring from diagonal balls from him into the box, and I'm sure we'll all remember the Fletcher header in the playoffs, which came from a Barry Bannon diagonal as well. He's got 2 goals and assists this season prior to the Norwich game, so I've not checked since because I'm bad at that. Bannon tends to make 10 more passes per game on average than anyone else in the Sheffield Wednesday side. So you can see a reliance on Barry Bannon to make things happen in the middle of the park. He also hits typically 5 long balls a game on average, which is the most in the side other than the goalkeeper. So you can see that, you know, they will go through Barry Bannon, and Barry Bannon will pull the strings. If Sheffield Wednesday, for me, to get the better of us, then they'll need to utilise him in midfield. But yeah, so currently they're hitting more long balls away from home than at home, but we'll definitely see how that one goes, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's a good point around Bannon, that he's almost like that deep quarterback, isn't he? Just coming deep, and he'll be the one that sprays it, and he's got the quality. They're not just long balls, they're long passes, and there's a difference. So yeah, it's a good one. My player, or I've sort of had between two. I mentioned Patterson a minute ago. Obviously, his versatility is a big thing, but also his long throw will help. That's just a side note for him. Another way for them to get the ball in the box, which, as we've mentioned, with our centre-back crisis, is something they'll be doing at every single opportunity. But I'm going to go for Kadeem Harris. I think he's the sort of player that, particularly against these low block teams, and we've played some this year even when they're playing low block against us and we struggle to break them down, I'm quite confident that we're not going to be able to concede on the break. Whereas with Wednesday, the direct style anyway, they'll have plenty of runners in behind. They haven't really got a target man as such. Everyone at the top of the field's mobile, but no more so than Harris really. He's quick, he's tricky, and he's direct. When he gets the ball, he's trying to make something happen. So I think he could be a threat on the break if we don't manage to sort of keep the back door shut, if you like, particularly with our fullbacks going forward.
Okay. So maybe take us into our strengths as well against them, and a key player that you've picked out, Chris, for us.
Yeah, as I mentioned last week, and I probably haven't spoken about it enough, but no time like the present, I suppose, I'm probably Lewis O'Brien's biggest fan, and I think he's going to have a big game today. It's one of those, today. I think it's one of those where against Wednesday, it's going to be aggressive. You're going to have to be high energy. It's going to be a real shift. It's not going to be pretty, like Brady said. And I think his aggression in transitions, where I mentioned them, where I think it could be a dangerous one for us. He's so good, in my opinion. They're easily the best on the team and one of the best in the Championship at really breaking play up and breaking counter-attacks up and winning the ball back for us quickly. He's got a real nose for the ball. And obviously, as we mentioned, going into last week, he breaks forward, and that all-action, high energy, doesn't mind getting stuck in, can be a bit prickly himself. I think he's going to be a big player for us. And, you know, I would say him every week if I could, a bit like you with Aaron Moy for this current team. So, yeah, I really like him. If he can rat around Bannon, then I think it gives us a really good chance to control the game.
Brady, I'll bring you in at this point as well. What sort of strengths do you think Town can utilise, and who would you pick as Town's key man as well?
Well, obviously, you don't have to be a kind of an expert on Town to know our left side's been really, really good this season. So Karama and Toffolo have got 7 assists and 7 goals between them. So I think, again, you know, we can talk about stats all you like, but I think they need to be on it for us to have a good game and get something. But actually, my key player, I think, will be quite useful for this, if he plays, which I think he should, is Fraser Campbell. I think the front three of Mbenza, Campbell and Karama are starting to click. I know Danny Ward's coming back from injury, but for me, Campbell's a bit more selfless. You know, I think he brings out the best of Karama and Mbenza because he'll lay passes off for them, you know, and his movement, I think what we saw in the QPR game as well, just dragging defenders a little bit wide, helps create chances for the others. So, and also his experience winning those niggly little fouls, I think with Wednesday as well, you know, that might be key. So yeah, I've gone for Fraser. Yeah,
so I'm not going to change much of a tune either. For me, Sheffield Wednesday will adopt the low block. Town tend to struggle against the low block. When somebody does that, you need somebody creative who can find small, very narrow pockets of space and little holes and angles. So Carol Eiting is my pick if he is to play. But speaking of bringing players back to play, it's our new feature, which we've not quite named yet, but I think we're possibly ready to float a few names via you lovely people via Twitter. So we probably will post a poll out quite shortly, and I think we've got 2 or 3 names. One I particularly like just because it amuses me, but I think all 3 of us like a specific one as well, don't we? Because there's a lot of things we could do with it. So when you do this feature, it's very difficult when you pick a decent player. I think based on last week, I thought my pick was probably the best in terms of the weaknesses that QPR offered. But when somebody sabotages you, by spelling the name of the player wrong, it's very difficult to win the poll, isn't it, Brady?
No, Matt, you can't blame me for that. It was a poor choice. No, I got a lot of stick for this, rightly so. The player in question even got involved and gave me a bit of stick, which was really funny.
Bradley
actually.
Frost, yes.
Yeah, Brady Cross. But like I said to you guys, his best season at Town was the year I was born. So I think I deserve a little bit of slack. But
who won the poll? Do we know?
Who won the poll? Oh, it's funny you bring that up, Chris. Who won?
To be fair, Marcus Stewart was always going to win. That was a tap-in. I've used it early. It was a tap-in. I nicked it in front of you, Matt. So I can't go too much, but it is back-to-back. So.
Two for two, isn't it?
I think Chris gets to go last this week then. So, Brady, just in case. I'm
confident there's no chance you've picked the same as me this time.
I don't know, actually. I've actually picked one, but now I'm wavering towards my second, so I can use
There's no chance you've picked mine. No chance. Go on, Brady.
Go on, Braidhouse.
Oh, Matt, I hope you've not picked this guy because I know how much you love him. He's got no hair, but we don't care. Aaron Moy, I've gone for. He just had a bit of everything, didn't he? And, I think we need to keep this game ticking against Wednesday and kind of boss midfield. And he can always do something special. He was decent on corners at times, decent at crosses. But then he'd also have that bit of magic. Like I think of that goal against Newcastle where it's the 1-2. And I think that kind of quick play would be something that we need. And I know we've talked about it off air, but, he's moved to China at the moment. But when that contract ends, I'd be trying to get him to come back to the Huddersfield.
Phil, I don't know if Phil listens anymore to us, but Phil, keep texting him. If you're not, keep texting Aaron, and when he's ready to come home, there's a very nice little space in our midfield which we would love to offer him. So just let us know when you're ready, Aaron. When you're ready. So I'll pick the next one. I was going to pick somebody else in a similar mould. But I'm going to do what Brady's done, and I'm going to play the poll instead of picking somebody who I think...
Oh, that's terrible. Who'd ever do that?
So the person that I think in a tight game, when Sheffield Wednesday are tight and difficult to break down, I think you need sometimes to look towards your bench and look towards someone who can make a difference from the substitutes bench, even if it's just the one time. And, Brady says he's got no hair, but we don't care. But I'm not going for the ultimate super sub. I'm going for the super sub, and it is Chef Cock, Colin Kwana.
Oh, wow.
Lovely.
Chris?
Is that it? No
reason why.
Just the super sub, bring him off the bench. You did it against
tight
Wednesday
game.
Last time.
Tight game against Sheffield Wednesday.
It's literally the poll, isn't it?
Yep,
it's literally the poll.
It's for the poll. People will vote without listening to my reasoning. It's fine. It's just for the poll.
Fair enough.
And my other player's not going to be Aaron Moy, so I'm going to save him for another week.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. I think Aaron Moy's already won the poll. So with that being said, I'm going to write the poll off this week. But I'm going to go for someone who I feel brings a lot of similar qualities that Aaron did. And someone who I think is going to be important in the area of midfield again, as why I mentioned Lewis O'Brien. I remember when this guy came and you just could immediately see the calming influence he had on the midfield and the team. And he probably also had one of my favourite songs.
Is it Ronnie Wahlberg?
Being away of. No, it was Barry Horn.
Oh, okay.
So Barry Horn obviously came and he was just such a calming influence in the midfield. Like I said, he would be breaking, he read the game so well. So he was breaking up opposition counters, which I think is going to be important. As I've mentioned, he'd be landing on second ball, which is going to be really crucial against the Pulis team with the long balls. And just the way he was able to control possession, stay behind the play, and just recycle it to make sure that when they are in that low block, we're keeping control of the game behind the ball. So for me, when he came, he was absolutely outstanding in that first time. I know he got a bit of cult hero status, didn't he, with us? But yeah, and that chant was pretty good as well.
I started that, believe it or not.
Get lost.
Honestly, I started it. Man United
How
used to sing it.
Prove that?
It's a difficult one, but Man United used to sing it for Andy Cole, and I heard them singing it for Andy Cole, and then I started it the next week in the...
How old were you when you were starting these chants?
18. Probably 18.
All right.
Oh, no, actually, no. When did he play? 97-ish, wasn't it? So I'd have probably been 16-ish. Yeah, 16, 17.
All right, so yeah,
it was in
enough.
the lower tier, which is now referred to as the jungle, if you like. Used to sit in that area. And I started it, and then a mate joined in, and then a couple joined in front, and then after about half an hour it started going. And then
Well, I just think that's spurious, but do you know what, mate? I'll give it you.
Yeah, there's a few I've done. There's a few which have been noted in the record books, but we'll come to that another time. And what we'll come to instead, Brady spoke to Ben from the Wednesday week, and he's going to let us know how Sheffield Wednesday fans feel about this game.
Cool. So I'm joined now by Ben from the Wednesday Week podcast. Ben, how you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Can't complain. Win at the weekend always helps. So I just want to check, because Sheffield Wednesday's been a bit of an interesting club the last 12 months. So what have you made of the start of the season so far? A lot's happened.
Yeah, a lot has happened. It's been a bit of a slow start. First 3 or 4 games we were looking good. Beat Cardiff, of course, on the opening day. And then, I don't know, I think the three losses to Luton, Wycombe and Rotherham. Well, Rotherham, then Wycombe, all on the bounce. Those 3 really we were... And at that stage, we were still thinking we got 12 points deducted rather than just 6. We were definitely hoping to win those 3 and to lose those 3, and in the manner that we did, just sort of put us on a bit of a downward spiral again. And that's, I think, we're still sort of feeling the effects of that. But I do think we're coming out of it with last couple of performances that we've seen.
Yeah, like you say, you've been a lot closer in games than you were at the start of the season, and obviously you've hired Tony Pulis since. What have you made of his appointment so far? Was he the man you wanted?
Not particularly. I'd like to see maybe Paul Cook or every Wednesday fan wanted Nigel Pearson, but we all knew that wasn't really going to happen with him living in Sheffield and him not wanting to ruin his legacy really at a club where he's a legend. So what we've seen so far has been what we expected really. It's just been really what you expect of Tony Pulis. I mean, we've had a couple of games in Preston away. Josh Windass got sent off early on, and similar against Reading, both of which have cost us points. So it's hard to judge him after 2 or 3 weeks when you've had a couple of games like that. I think the Norwich game at the weekend, we deserved at least a point out of it. At 1-0 up, we should have arguably had 1 penalty, if not 2. And then we had chances as well to make it 2-0, which would have finished the game off. So the signs are promising. We've not been attacking in any sense, really. It's been hitting teams on the break, whereas goals are coming from, and we're making a big job of sitting back and defending for long spells. But I suppose that's what we've expected from Tony Pulis.
Yeah, and are you kind of confident that you will stay up with him in charge?
Yeah, I mean, I was fairly confident with Gary Monk in charge, if I'm honest. I mean, since Christmas, we all know Wednesday's home form have been nothing short of tragic, really. We're only winning, I think we only won 2 games at home under Gary Monk. In 2020, one of those being the Bournemouth game a few days before his sacking. So I think again that were another thing what cost him his job. That's it really.
No, that's fair enough. And I suppose we'll come on to the game on Tuesday. What are you expecting from the game against Huddersfield?
Again, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game as games with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment don't seem to be. I think, as we have done against other teams, we'll try and probably on the break, sit back. We'll be a shape will be sound under Tony Pulis. Players, I think, when his former players have talked to the training methods that he uses, it's very methodical, not very exciting, but it gets results. So I think it'll be a tight game. I think there'll only be maybe a couple of goals. Maybe whoever gets the first goal will probably win it.
Yeah, and I think you're right with that. I think it's going to be a tough game for us based on how we play. Have you watched much of Huddersfield this season? What have you kind of made of us, if you have?
Being mixed, hasn't it? Really, from like an outsider looking in, I think the new manager there's signs that similar football to Bielsa that he obviously worked under. I think I can't remember what game it was, but I saw the highlights of one goal which were pretty much identical to a Leeds goal last season. So that's obviously showing through, and you can't argue with Bielsa's methods with what he's done for Leeds. So, yeah, as you said, I think it'll be a tough test for us. I think it'll be up to you to be breaking us down. And again, as I say, it's going to be really tight. And if you do nick a goal, then it wouldn't surprise me if you hold out. If we nick a goal, it wouldn't surprise me if we sit back for an hour and you're camped in our half. So it could be that sort of game.
It's funny this, Ben, because I don't feel very confident about this game, and you don't feel very confident about this game by the sounds of it. So with that in mind, what is your score prediction for the match?
I think on that, what we've just said, probably 1-1. I could quite easily see a draw. If not that, it's going to be, for me, a 1-0 either way. But yeah, my heart's saying 1-1.
Yeah, I think you're probably right with that, Ben. I think that's what I've gone for, so I'd agree with you on that. But no, thanks so much for coming on, mate, and best of luck for the rest of the season after tomorrow as well.
Okay, chaps, right, it's time for us to don the skinny chinos, New Balance, and clipboards and whatnot, and start to look and be the coach. So, in terms of predictions, Chris, what have you got for us this week? And just before we move on, can I just point out, as soon as we're in the habit of pointing things out, somebody did say 2-0 Huddersfield versus QPR. So
I was waiting for it. Waiting for you to mention it.
There we go. This is probably the only one I'll get for a while, but there we go.
That's fair, mate. Well done. So, yeah, I think this is going to be, as Brady mentioned right at the beginning, it's going to be not like the QPR game. It's going to be grim. It's going to be bitty. You won't come away from it thinking, oh, what a brilliant open game of football that was. It's going to be tight. When Wednesday have actually scored, even though obviously it's a different manager, they've scored first a lot this season, like 7 out of 16 to say where they are in the league, and they've not won many games. But when the opposition scores first, they yet to pick up a point. So I think they're going to be tight. I'm edging. It's either going to be 0-0 or 1-0. One way or the other. So with that being said, I will go 0-0. I think, I think obviously the big dilemma is going to be who we play at centre-back. It is going to be crucial for the Pulis style and how we defend the set plays. Again, I'm a bit uncertain that they'll change formation because it's just so uncertain what Wednesday are going to do. So I think they'll stick with the 4-3-3. And it'd be interesting to see what rotation. I tried to pick one last week and he made 5 changes. It's right in the middle of this busy period. It's going to be a really difficult one to pick. I think having Pippa and Toffolo, I think they're probably the mainstays, and maybe Karoma now with how he's playing. I think they're the mainstays, and maybe anyone else around it, they'll probably look to try and rotate a little bit.
I think similar in terms of rotation as well. On that note, I might as well nip in, because we can all have the same score, so it doesn't really matter. So, in terms of a team, I think Hamer will keep his place. Romani Edmonds-Green will come in to play alongside Naby Sarr. I don't think there's another option really to do that. I wouldn't imagine he would play Hogg in a back four. Toffolo and Pieper, I think, will play fullback, although he may look to rest Pieper after just coming back from a hamstring injury, so Dehaney may get a nod. I think we might see Alex Viaco at some point on Tuesday night. Whether Hogg starts and he comes on, I'm not sure, but I think Viaco will probably make his first appearance. I think Bakuna will come back in for somebody, whether that's Eiting or O'Brien. I think one of those two will get rested. And Diakabi may get another run out, although he seems to have fallen down the order a little bit, but I could see maybe him coming back in, possibly from Benza and Danny Ward and Campbell possibly swapping as well. For me, it's a winnable game for us, but I think potential squad rotation and tiredness again will weaken us. Sheff Wednesday have started to scrap a bit harder than what they were doing. I half think we could potentially lose this one because we don't tend to like playing against sides like this. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 in this one. Red House?
Yeah, very similar to you, Matt. I've picked 1-1. I think I'd like to say a win, but I think this is another game where we'll dominate for possession but get frustrated at any opportunity. Huddersfield, we haven't actually won 2 games in a row since we beat Swans in Derby, so in October. So yeah, as kind of mentioned, this would be a good opportunity on paper to get 3 points, but I think it'd be quite difficult. For me, if I was coach, I'd kind of keep the same team. Obviously, Schindler can't play, so I'd have Edmonds Green in for him, but I'd have, Hamer in goal, Pippa, Edmonds Green, Sarr, Toffolo, and then the midfield three of Eiting, Hogg, O'Brien, and Benza, Campbell and Karoma. I think this would be a game where if it's not going our way, we've got 5 subs, just switch it up then. So I'd kind of start with the team, and if it's not working, then change it up, because we have got the subs to change it. But yeah, 1-1.
Fantastic. So that's our prediction. So me and Brady have gone for a 1-1. Chris, what did you go for again?
0-0.
0-0. So three littlewoods here. So Littlewoods Pools, here we come. Thanks for listening again to the warm-up this week. And we'll be back before the weekend, I'm sure, to give you to get you stretching in the right direction again. So thanks again, and we'll be back shortly.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored, it was a heaven dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance.